Hi, and welcome to The Shit That Happens to Me, a podcast about life, love, and everything in between. I'm your host, Stacey Nye, psychologist, passionate storyteller, wife, mother, wannabe famous person. Now sit back and listen because I'm here to tell you about the shit that happens to me. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Shit That Happens to Me podcast. I'm so excited to be here today recording video along with audio. We're trying out StreamYard now, and so I'm really excited to be able to see my guest face to face and have it all get recorded. And just a brief nod to Cause, who's my sponsor of the show. They have given me these nifty headphones to use, and they're really great. So I'm very excited to introduce a very special guest today, Myra Sanchick. Hi, Myra.
Hi, Stacey. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And, you know, this is after more than a year of quarantine. I have a reason to get dressed. So I put on a necklace and earrings.
You look lovely.
I don't have shoes on. Oh, I shouldn't say that because you should have the whole image. But yeah, this is it for this year. This is my get dressed day.
Yes, I think you look very lovely. And I was joking with actually one of my clients today about she was feeling bad that she's worn sweatpants every day. And I said, what do you think I have on under this nice shirt I have on? I mean, I wasn't wearing my Shit That Happens to Me podcast shirt, but I said, I've worn sweatpants and nice tops the whole time. So is everyone else. But
I actually did what people threaten they're going to do. I shouldn't say this, but I didn't wear pants on a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have time. I just threw on a shirt and I just had to go. So yeah. And I mean, they can't tell, right?
No. I mean, just jump right in, Myra. We'll just start talking about the shit that happens to you. That's right. So funny. I mean, did you have on pajama pants or you mean no pants?
Just give the illusion of pajama pants, but no, there were no pants.
Oh, okay.
And that was also the same meeting that Alexa, I don't know if anyone else has had this experience, but people are talking on the Zoom call and Alexa was talking in my Zoom call. And she was saying, oh, that's very interesting. Really? Tell me more. And I was like,
what? You're kidding.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that? I think it's an SNL bit. Or maybe it's just a meme. I don't know. I can't remember now, but where they're joking about, they're laughing at something and Alexa is also laughing and you think, oh, she really is listening, isn't she?
It's kind of scary. I don't really like it, but it plays my music, so that's good.
Yeah, right. So, Myra, can you tell everybody, who you are, and maybe then, then I have a question after that, but go ahead. Tell everyone.
Yeah, I've been a longtime television news reporter in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I left about a year and a half ago, and I'm now working in the nonprofit industry, but I probably am one of the most, I don't want to say senior because that sounds old, most veteran local newscasters in the country. I was at the station I was at for 35 years, and wow. It wasn't my first station either. So, but I started when I was 12 and things are good.
Right. I was going to say, how can that be? You're only 39 right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of stories over the years, and if it gives you perspective on how long I've been a TV reporter. When I first began, and this is really going to sound dated, but I was working with film, and I was editing film.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I've been through the transitions of that.
Yeah, for sure. That's really, 35 years is really quite a career to have. So you've probably seen it all.
I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
And it's really been rewarding and scary and wonderful and horrible at the same time.
Yeah. So, there's a lot to choose from there. But before we jump in, I have a question. I don't know if you know that I asked this question to all of my guests. Do you know how I know you?
I think it's because our sons are friends. We have 2 sons. I have 4 in total, and they're 2 of them are friends with 2 of yours.
Yes. So I think they're all. I think they all know each other and are friendly.
Yes.
Actually, from
Yeah.
camp probably. But
Right.
I think I knew you before then. I
Uh-oh.
feel like I met you at the station. I don't think
Oh,
that.
it's possible.
I think you interviewed me.
I did refer someone to you for an interview because you're
Okay.
a well-renowned psychologist,
Oh
and
yes, well
yeah,
renowned.
and you were very, very well spoken on the
Okay.
issue, and we also have a hard time getting people. So no, I'm kidding.
Oh.
You were great. So that is a possibility, but
Yeah.
I know I've dropped off many a kid at your house.
Oh yes, for sure, for sure. Yeah. And yeah, so I was thinking about that today. I remember long ago, when our kids became friendly, thinking, but I know Myra, before that. So anyway, all right. So um, you have some funny stories, as you were just saying.
I do.
Um, Now you have in this, sheet that you gave me, you wrote behind the scenes. I'm guessing there's
Hmm.
behind the scenes and maybe on camera funny stories too. But I'd like to hear some of the stories you thought about
Oh my
telling
gosh.
today.
Yeah, there's so many. I when I look at it now, and the poor reporters who are having to go through COVID with the mics extended on poles 6 feet, and I really admire them. But through my years, there've been sometimes it didn't work out perfectly, and I just know I could start with one time, and the stories have changed too. So forgive me if this sounds a little ridiculous, the stories we cover, but one of the big stories that I remember was at Miller Park. They have the sausage races.
Yeah.
That's our ballpark here in Milwaukee, and of course it's Wisconsin, so we have big mascotted people who are wearing very heavy tall costumes, and they are dressed like sausages. We have an Italian sausage, a chorizo, an Italian, and do we have a brat or a hot dog or something? We have the sausage mascots that run around Miller Park, and they are the entertainment, and they have the races. So during one of those races, the sausage races, one of the pro ball players from another state put his bat out in the runway and tripped. I believe it was the Italian sausage.
Oh,
So he
no.
tripped the Italian sausage. The Italian sausage goes flying. And it seems a little funny because we're talking sausages, but she was actually injured. And it became a story, and they ended up charging this ball player with battery.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
so that was my story, and I went to the courthouse where he was charged, and I wasn't the only one. There were a number of reporters and photographers with lights on, and we were all walking backwards. We call it backpedaling, with the mics and asking questions. And so I was, why did you trip the sausage? What would you like to say to the sausage if you had the opportunity to talk to that sausage today? And he wasn't saying anything, but he went right down the elevator. And of course, it's just terrible for these poor people who reporters are chasing, because you have to push the button for the elevator, and the elevator never comes. So this
Yeah.
poor person has to sit there for another 10 minutes while we're besieging him with questions. So anyway, that day I had to go to Miller Park to prepare the story and ask fans about it and present the story. So it just so happened that was the day that they were shooting a movie there called Mr. 3000.
Oh yeah, I remember that. With
Yeah,
Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac, rest his soul.
Yeah.
And it had a number of big stars.
Yes, it did.
So that also was the day when I decided to spill a large coffee on the lap of my white pants.
Of course.
So I'm running up to another reporter who's there talking to Chris Noth, who's Mr. Big in Sex and the City, and I think he was in CSI, a very handsome gentleman, and big star.
Yeah.
So I'm running up with my white pants and my brown stain all over. And I said, you've got to help me. Look at me. I can't work today. And I didn't bring a change of clothes. I didn't bring anything. And she said, I got you covered. So she ran to her car, and I'm like, hi, Chris Noth. I'm an idiot. And she comes back, and she has a trench coat, and she gives it to me. And I'm like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I put on the trench coat, and it's 85 degrees.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Yeah, it's 85 degrees. So I'm wearing a trench coat. Like, I don't know if people think I'm a pervert or something, what am I wearing a trench coat for? And that happens to be the day when my producer calls and says, this is turning into a big, big story. And every network in town and out of town, and Fox and Friends and CNN and all sorts of national outlets want to interview you live. And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting there in the stands of Miller Park. That's where we set up, with my trench coat, looking like a complete fool. And I have to go, CNN and talk about this sausage, who was injured. And that was one of my stories. So that was kind of behind the scenes. That, if anybody remembers, that's why I was wearing that trench coat that day.
Okay. I'd love to see that video today. That would be really funny.
I would not. Yeah, that's hopefully burned. But
so did the baseball player trip the sausage deliberately?
Yeah, he did.
Oh.
I think he thought it was funny.
Oh, so, that's not funny.
No, it wasn't. And but a lot of the networks thought it was pretty comical, so they wanted me to yuck it up, and I couldn't, because and she was a young woman.
Yeah.
She was pretty upset, actually. I think she was a student, and yeah, she was upset. So I couldn't really yuck it up, and there was that conflict, as well as the stupid trench coat I was wearing.
I mean, they're still dressing up like sausages. Like, they were just in one of the rebranding video, all the sausages, and they steal Bernie Brewer and,
Oh, those bad sausages, and yeah. So they apparently came back with a vengeance. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't even know how they can see in those costumes while they're running. Like,
they're very heavy. Yeah. They're very heavy, and I think the eye holes are actually, their fake eyes are up here, but their eye holes are actually way down here. And I don't know how they breathe, but I don't want to know. But it's, the mascot's not easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of times things like that, happen, and there's no excuses. You can't say I gotta go home and change. There's just no time to do that.
Right.
So I know that as a good reporter, I should have had a change. And one of my bosses once told me, you always have a change of clothes in the car, because that's just what you do, because you never know where you're going to go next. And I said, to be honest, I've had a change of clothes in my car, and I haven't gone anywhere, and those bell bottoms are not in style anymore.
Yeah, right.
So I just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I mean, there's always, stories that, I'm not real proud of all the time, that people don't know what's going on behind the scenes. There was one time when I was doing a story outside the Milwaukee Health Department, and I was live, and I was talking, and I see out of the corner of my eye a drunk couple. I mean, staggering drunk, walking down the street towards me. And I'm like, uh-oh. But I'm talking, and I'm talking about, I think, a woman who died of some contagious disease, because I'm at the health department. I'm warning people. And he comes up, and he listens to me for a second, and he drapes himself over me. He's a big guy. And he goes, "That's so sad."
Oh my God.
He's draping himself over me. So we, at that point, threw to a sound clip of an interview on my story. And I pounded him. I'm like, get off of me. So I had 10 seconds until the interview clip ran out. And I'm like, get off of me. And he looks at me like, what? And he walks down the road. And then I had to finish the live. But things like that happen, I just I can't believe it.
I can't even imagine that happening. That's awful. Yeah. That's crazy.
Well, he was right. It was sad.
Yes.
There was one time when I was, reading my notebook, and I was live, and a woman found it very interesting, so interesting that she just came right next to me, and she's reading my notes over my shoulder. And then at the end, she's like, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's right. You listen. So right. Yeah. It's group participation, and that's what we want. We want, engagement.
And those things get aired then, right? Because they're live.
Yeah, that's live TV.
Yeah. And the guy who hugged you too, that was live.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I wouldn't call it a hug. I would call it right before passing out.
Right.
Finding a spot to pass out. And I wasn't a hospitable spot, so he moved on.
No.
Yeah.
But it wasn't live when you were pounding him off of you.
Oh, yeah. But we were in tape. We were in tape.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I was live. And so I was, again, I was pounding him. I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah. I don't even know what I would do.
Right.
Scream or knee him, maybe,
I know. There's a lot of times, too, when, I make mistakes so that it's not a good thing. There was a time when we had a helicopter. Right now, news stations are getting away from helicopters because drones are so popular and so more efficient and cheaper. But we had a helicopter, and I was kind of afraid. I've never been in a helicopter before, but they wanted to take me up somewhere, a court case. And I'm with the photographer, who's a big guy, and he said, I brought some Dramamine. And I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds good. I said, how many do you take? Said, 4.
What?
I said, 4. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. And powerful stuff. I probably should have taken a half.
Yeah.
So
most.
And I thought Dramamine just settles your stomach. I didn't know it does other things. So I was a Jello Woman. I was whoa. And it lasted. And it was not a real coherent report. I didn't know what I honestly could not tell you what I was saying. No. And I'm sure anybody who listened to it could not tell you what I was saying.
Did you get feedback from that, from anybody?
Sometimes
what was wrong with you?
I mean, sometimes I think people are just so shocked they can't say anything. We're just going to pretend this didn't happen, So.
And did he take 4 also, the cameraman?
Yeah.
But he was a big guy.
He's a big dude.
Even so, that's excessive.
What is a normal dose?
1.
2? 1. Okay. 1. Yeah, and I'm pretty small, so I probably should have taken a half.
Yeah.
But it got me through the helicopter ride. I'll tell you that.
Yes, it did. Yeah, I mean,
closer to God. Yes.
My fans know that I'm very familiar with Dramamine because I hate to fly and I get sick, and so I have a whole cocktail of anti-nausea medications I take when I fly. So.
Oh, are you the person that I see, I usually sit next to the woman with the rosary and, rocking and praying.
And anxiety is really only a minimal piece of it. It's mostly air sickness. And I developed anxiety because I didn't want to get sick. So, but it's mostly air sickness. And if I can take care of that, then I'm usually okay. And in fact, once we take off, I'm usually fine. Most of it, like with any good anxiety, is anticipatory, but yeah.
Well, good. At least, I'm going to fly out in a couple of weeks, and I've been inoculated. And so I feel like I could be careful and go take a little mini vacation. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Oh, good. Good for you.
Of course, the place I decide to go to, is exploding. It's Miami.
Yeah.
Now the kids on spring break apparently have tried to take over the city and
Yes,
protesting.
there's a
And
curfew now.
there's a curfew. And that's, what are the chances of that? The place I would pick to go on vacation would explode. 100%. Yeah.
Right. That's the shit that happens to you, huh?
Yes. It is. So, but I think it's going to simmer down, hopefully, and it'll be okay.
Yeah. I mean, spring break isn't forever, so hopefully it'll be over by the time you get there.
Well, right. I mean, you think there are protests really in Miami? Is it, Black Lives Matter? What is it about? No, it's kids wanting spring break. Yeah.
Right.
Who would know?
Yeah. Those same kids who probably went to Miami last year too.
Right. What? I mean, they want their spring break, and everybody's been quarantined so long that it's just, I want my vacation too.
Yes. So. Yeah. So, what other kinds of things have happened?
Oh gosh, there's just so much. I mean, there's, a lot of times I work really closely with photographers, and it's kind of like a buddy cop situation. And because you're in these, really bizarre, every day is bizarre. And that's kind of a lot of times what news is. It's the unusual. So there's a lot of soul searching, and I worked with a photographer, and after a while he said, you know what, I finally decided what I want to do with my life. I said, oh, what? He said, I'm going to be a stand-up comic. I'm like, not really, what are you going to do? That's not really a job. And he's like, no, I'm going to be a stand-up comic. And I'm like, okay, good. So he would take his notebook out and think of things all day and write down, funny things that would happen. And I would try to be supportive and go to his shows. And he would have shows wherever he could book them, wherever he could get, the practice. He'd have, an artistic venue where people, and the crowds were really harsh, where they would, drink wine and give you the evil look, like, you are not funny. Please get off my stage. And feel really bad my hat's off to anybody who tries stand-up comedy, because the audience is so rough. And so I went to one venue, and it was really cute. They had bistro tables, and it was amateur night. And the first guy who gets up was a kid, I think a student, and he was so scared. It was his first time, and he was like, on the way here, I can't do this. I can't do this. Oh my God, I can't do this. And he goes, okay, I'm going to do this. On the way here, I can't do this. I can't do this. And so I'm sitting at the table, and I like drinking scotch. So I had a scotch. And by about the fourth or fifth time, he's like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, guys. I walked up on the stage. I gave him my scotch.
Oh, right.
And he downed it. Oh. And he finished his set.
Oh, so nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is nice. So I think I'm going to go and get my scotch right now, but no.
Go right ahead. I have my drink. So today I've got canned wine, but.
Oh, really? Oh, my.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was okay. Okay.
It's okay on my podcast to drink. So.
Oh, okay. No, I don't need that. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it's that kind of thing. And, there's a time when it gets a little scary too. And this stuff doesn't really get on the news a lot, but there was a motorcycle gang and in Milwaukee, and a couple of their members were charged with murder.
Oh.
And my bosses decided it was a good thing to send me to try to interview the rest of the gang. Uh-huh. And they have a clubhouse, because apparently that's what motorcycle gangs do. They have a clubhouse. So I went with the photographer I went with is a woman, and she's about half my size. And so we're going down there, and
Two little women going to
Little
the
Women, yeah,
motorcycle gang clubhouse.
right. What's wrong with this picture? And
Right.
so there were guys sitting out there, and so I'm like, oh hey, we're from TV News. Want to talk about the murder? And they stood up, and before I could get the rest of the sentence out, started swearing and chasing us. And we ran back to the car as fast as we could, but the photographer I was with was faster. She jumped into the driver's seat, locked the doors. I think she was just panicked. Locked the doors. So I'm going for the handle and it's not opening, and she drives off.
What?
I think she was petrified, just petrified. And and they're running up the street, and I'm like, come back, come back. So she did think, like, what am I doing? She backed up, unlocked the door, and I got in and we took her. But it was kind of out of a cartoon almost.
Yeah.
So there are things, but those are the stories we don't really talk about. We just talk about the main story. And there was another time when I was sent to a drive-by shooting at a time when those are rare. Unfortunately, they're not anymore. So all we had to do really is get an outside picture of the house where it happened. It wasn't a big deal, we thought. And so the photographer, is doing it. I didn't even get out of the car. The photographer is taking a picture of the house where it happened. And all of a sudden, these about 5 guys come out with the biggest pit bulls I've ever seen on the widest chains I've ever seen. And they were like ponies, these pit bulls. And they were, pulling and wanting at it. And I ran out, and I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? Because he was arguing with them, and they don't want their house having a picture taken.
Right.
And I noticed that one guy had a big bandage over his head. And I said, well, we're just, here because there was a drive-by shooting, and we're just trying to, and they're like, yeah. And the guy's like, I was the one who got shot.
Oh no.
And I'm like, of course you are. And don't shoot me back. And it turns out he did a whole interview about it.
Oh, wow.
Because, while they were terrifying at first, they really just wanted their story out.
Yeah.
But, it's not funny because these are dramas and tragedies. Right. But, it is a little bit, interesting that people want to tell their story when they want to kill you at first.
Yeah, right.
Put on a dime.
Right. Well, I think that like in a lot of the things that I see, they don't portray, reporters very well. I'm just talking about like movies and things like that. Like, the Die Hard movies, that reporter is really a creep. I don't know if you've seen the Die Hard movies.
No, I'm embarrassed I haven't. I spent a lot of years not watching movies because I had 4 kids. So, but
that's what I did with my kids. We watched.
Oh, you watched Die Hard? Okay.
That's one of my favorite movies, but
oh, really?
He's really a creep. So I think, and I don't know, like on some level, we're maybe socialized to mistrust reporters. And I don't think like everyone and all reporters, because I trust you, but I think in certain situations, right.
You're putting a lot of personal trust in somebody who maybe doesn't have your best interests at heart all the time. Most reporters are good people.
Yeah.
Most, I don't know how it is now. Things have changed so much, and I've been out a year and a half. So I don't know. It's really a different landscape, but I think a couple of years ago, most reporters they're just people trying to do their job. And
of course, right. As with any job.
Yeah, kids who got this. I just counted up the credits at the end of my college, and I'm like, I could get journalism a lot easier than I could get, psychology. So I did that. And they're just people.
Yeah. Interesting.
And that is true. I just did count up because I thought I really was really interested in psychology.
Were you?
And then I looked at my freshman year, I pulled out one of the textbooks that I was going to buy. And you had to, I don't know if you did this, like kill a rat and dissect its brain.
Kill the rat? Or like inject the
Mhm.
rat, you mean? I don't think I did that. I don't
Okay.
think I would
Well,
want to do that.
I skipped ahead and I closed it, and that was my career change.
Oh, right. I don't blame you.
No, I don't know. No, I don't do that. I'm not going to kill a rat and dissect its brain. I'm sorry.
No, no.
So yeah, otherwise I could be doing the podcast and interviewing you.
Yeah, right. Well, you could have your own podcast, Myra.
Right. No, podcasts are, really interesting now, and it's so great because people are home and people, you know, they, you can't listen to music all the time on the radio, so you might as well listen to a podcast and just,
Yeah.
especially if a long drive, it's a great
Right.
thing.
Yeah, for sure. Although people aren't driving that much right now, but I listen when I'm folding my laundry or doing the dishes or, I've had puzzles going. So that's when I listen. But yeah.
Yeah. Do you have your own favorite podcast, or do you listen to yourself?
Well, I listen to like I listen to the true crime stuff, like My Favorite Murder and
Oh,
Serial and what's the one with Phoebe Judge? I can't
I don't know, but there's someone,
Criminal.
my favorite murder.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a very popular
Really?
podcast where these,
Oh, wow.
that's how I kind of got into starting my podcast.
Really?
Yeah, so they just tell murder stories to each other, these two
Hmm.
women who are kind of like, well, they're very well known right now, but yeah, they've made a
Okay.
small fortune doing a podcast. So
Oh, wow. Well,
yeah.
it's actually really interesting stuff. It's great, just kind of eavesdropping. You feel like you're eavesdropping, which is a great feeling.
Well, and you feel like you kind of become friends with these people, like you feel like you get to know them, they tell like personal stories, like I tell personal stories,
Hmm.
people
Hmm.
probably think they know me really well. So
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
Um, and over the years, and this is at this point in time, I get to reunite with people that I kind of lost touch with, and so this is
Yeah.
really good on that level too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So what else? I have here some other stories
I'm a
that you wrote
reporter,
here.
and if you don't ask enough questions, I'm gonna start asking you questions because
Okay.
that's what I do.
Yeah. You're
And
not used to
that
being
you
on
don't
that
want you
side.
don't want that. You don't want that to
Right.
happen. Yeah. You'll be walking off crying
Yeah.
because what did I just say? What did I
Right.
tell? Yeah. That was my secret.
Right. Right.
It's been a good career.
Oh, yeah. What was it like to raise kids and do this career?
Well, that was kind of crazy because I was always, you get the calls in the middle of the day and, where are my soccer cleats and this
Yeah.
and that. And, the- I'd be like, there's a riot now and I'm in the middle of it and I don't know, you're going to have to figure it out. So it was that kind of thing. And, you know, we, I guess maybe to make up for the fact that I wasn't there all the time finding soccer cleats. And by the way, I think that's why my kids are really good cooks because I wasn't there to cook. So they watched
Yeah.
the food channel and they were like, oh, I'm going to try that. And, they have some really great recipes. But I think they had a lot of pets. So we had gerbils, we had hamsters, guinea pigs, everything except reptiles. I don't do reptiles. And so, and sometimes, I remember they were the same camp. It was Rainbow Camp that the kids went to.
Yeah.
At the end they had rabbits there. And the kids would pet a little petting zoo with rabbits. And at the end of the year, my kids came home and said, "Oh, the rabbits are going to go to the, Humane Society," and they were really sad because they got to know these rabbits. And they said, "Mom, can we have a rabbit?" And I'm always like, yeah, sure. So we went up and there are cages of rabbits. And there's no one around, but I had called and they said, just take what the rabbit you want. And well, the kids wanted a rabbit that was huge. There was a huge rabbit. And I said, let's not take the huge rabbit. I've never seen a rabbit this big. It was the size of a dog. And I said, let's take this one. And there was a cute little one with like lop ears and her name was Tiki. So we took Tiki. And Tiki was a very sweet animal. And then one day, one of my sons said, there's something wrong with Tiki. I said, what's wrong? Look at, she's got a growth on her abdomen. And I'm like, oh no, what is it? And sure enough, there was like some kind of growth there. I'm like, let's just wait and see, maybe tomorrow it'll be better, because that always happens, a big growth gets better. And so it wasn't better. And so my son was very upset. We have to take Tiki to the emergency room. So yes, I took Tiki, the rabbit, to the emergency room.
Of course you did.
And this free rabbit, of course, I'm taking now to the emergency room. Yeah. So I'm in there, and we're waiting for us to be called. And there's drama in there. There are sick people coming in with sick animals. It's really sad, and I'm worried about Tiki now. So finally they call us, and I tell the vet, I'm like, well, we got her, a couple months ago, and she's got this growth on her abdomen. And the vet picks her up and looks at her and says, who told you this was a she?
Oh, no.
And I said, the people at camp did.
Yeah, right. What did they know?
No, this is a testicle and it's descending. And I said, thank you very much. Oh, here's your $80.
Yeah, right. How much did that cost me?
Well, it cost me more because they recommended that I get the rabbit fixed because they live longer. Mm-hmm. And of course I got the rabbit fixed for another $300. And I had to go to a rabbit specialist,
Oh, my goodness.
So this free rabbit, yeah.
How long did Tiki live?
No, after that anyway, I don't know. I mean, a while, but not, it was not a world's record. It was a short but happy life, yes. Mm-hmm. And then once my dog, I had a dog who, because of all the neglect too, no, I'm kidding. It's actually, someone who lives near me lost their dog and loved my dog. Mm-hmm. So they would call the dog over. And the dog used to be trained to stay in the yard, but they keep calling it over and they give it treats. Mm-hmm. And so Reggie, my dog, eventually got used to leaving and taking little trips by herself. So I'd come home and I'm like, kids, where's the dog? And they're like, I don't know. And so she'd end up at Maddock down the dog pound, as the old phrase is. But so I'd have to go pick her up, and that was, you have to wait till the next day, and they charge for boarding, and thank goodness they were there. However, so we got the dog back, and this happened a couple times, and I'm like, what's with this dog? So I followed her one time, and she had gotten into this habit of, she was trained to pretend she was Roadkill. So she would walk into the middle of the street and lie down.
What?
And then people would come and go, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, are you okay? And they'd pet her and they make a big deal, and she'd lift her head and wag her tail, and she'd get treats.
Oh my
and then eventually they'd take her home, and they'd have to call the dog pound.
Yeah.
So I did follow her. I saw her do it. There were two girls on a bike. They stopped. Oh my gosh. I was like, get home.
Oh my God.
Was like, And she actually never did it again. But I'm like, you never do that again. So
that is the funniest thing I've ever heard, that a dog would pretend to be Roadkill.
There are lots of things like that. We had, I'll tell you, if you've ever heard birds, I had two birds. There were cockatiels, and they I had them for a very long time, and I really didn't want them. I had these visions at night about how I would go into the domes, how I would smuggle them into the domes and, open up my purse and let them go. And, but I actually really thought about that, but I thought I'm going to get caught. So these kids, I had 4 little boys running around, and I'd gotten these birds from a friend because I was just the homeless sanctuary for animals. And the kids always were like, Mom, Mom. And I'm like, what? Mom? Everything was mom, 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 mom.
Oh.
So one day they had gone to school. I was home alone, and I hear, Mom, Mom. It freaked me out. I can't tell you how much it freaked me out. I'm like, I left one here. And I'm looking around, and it's Mom, Mom. It was, the birds had learned it.
That's hysterical.
Yeah. And because that's all they heard from morning till night. That's all I heard.
Of course.
So yeah, and that was very scary.
That's literally like a Family Guy episode. I don't even watch that show, but I saw this one episode where the baby, Stewie, I think is his name, just literally for 10 minutes is going, Mom, 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 Mom. And like, that's literally how I feel. And I only had 2, but I was like, I'm changing my name. Don't say my name anymore. Or just tell me what you want. You don't have to say Mom first. Just say, can I have a piece of chocolate? Not Mom, can I have a piece of chocolate? I just got really weird about hearing Mom all the time.
Well, Stewie, it would be for the sake of saying Mom, would be Mom, 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 Mom. And then the mom would say, what? And he'd say,
right.
Yeah. So, it's just the attention.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But not to be a buzzkill, but with birds and that are bonded like that, my kids, one of them passed away because they do after years and years. They have a certain lifespan, and my kids like the other one's going to pass away soon. I'm like, no. Sure enough, a couple of days later, they're bonded, and they do. It's kind of weird and sad, and I didn't believe it, but I will tell you, it does happen.
Yeah. Well,
not funny.
It's hard enough with dogs. No, it's hard enough. And I've been at the animal emergency room many, many times during this whole quarantine. But
oh, really? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I know everyone's fine, but yeah.
Did your rabbit send a testicle as well? No. Okay.
But Jesse did for his bar mitzvah project. We went to the animal shelter and we took care of the rabbits together. So, and if you volunteer at the animal shelter, at least in like Grafton, wherever it was, Wisconsin, you have to make a 6-month commitment. Like you can't just volunteer for 3 months. So every Sunday for 6 months, we might have missed one Sunday, we would go and take care of the rabbits there. So he got really attached to the rabbits. I can still remember them, but they were very cute and sweet, but shit everywhere. Like you couldn't take them out of the cage without them shitting everywhere.
That's what, as your podcast says, yes.
Yes, right. I was like, we're not getting one.
We did the animal volunteer thing at a shelter as well. And my eldest son wanted to do that. And so I said, all right. And we had to make the commitment. And so I was a leader. So I had to lead. It was not only my son, it was a group of kids every Sunday. Oh. And it was pretty much cleaning the cages. And after you did that, you can play with the animals. Except my son we had cats. They had big cat, enclosures. And my son was allergic to cats.
Oh.
And so I was kind of, we tried to get him to do a little bit of other things so he wasn't in direct exposure. So I sent the other kids into the cat house, the cat house. Yeah. And there was, I remember, I don't do lizards. I think I've mentioned that. Mm-hmm. There were lizards there. And one of the kids was a little rambunctious and was going in the lizard cage. And there's no one in the shelter at this point because I had the keys and we were doing the Sunday morning cleaning and they don't open till noon. So I'm like, put the top to the lizard cage down. No, I know what I'm doing. I'm like, really, put the top to the lizard cage down. And it's someone else's child, and I don't want to yell at him, and I don't want to,
Yeah.
like, you're not going to watch TV tonight if you don't put the top of the cage down, because
Right.
you probably will watch TV. So he said, no, I know what I'm doing. And he lifts the lizard out, and he drops the lizard on the floor.
Oh, no.
And the lizard's like going all over the shelter and behind the desk, refrigerator. And I'm not going to touch it. I'm like, I have to do something. So, I'm like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this. And, I'm trying to do the lizard with the top of the cage. And finally I get the lizard back in the cage. And I close it and shut it. And this kid went and did that with a cat and also a puppy. And there were animals all over the place. So I couldn't, not only could I not corral the animals, I couldn't control the kid,
Yeah, really. I only had to control my kid during that experience.
Oh yeah, I had others as well. So and it didn't go well. I couldn't do it. But live and learn.
Yeah, right.
Live and learn.
And
but
that was brave of you to handle the lizard because you don't like.
No, I did not handle it. I put it in the top of the the cage cover, and then I flipped it.
Okay.
And it was a big, it wasn't a lizard. It was a lizard. I don't know what you call it, but it was a lizard.
Godzilla. Like what is it? Not a chameleon, but
bearded dragon. I think it was.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, those are kind of cute. Those don't bother me.
Adorable, yeah. I should have called you. I should have called you.
Yeah, right.
No, those are supposed to be in a different climate and a different country, free and eating bugs and doing their thing.
Right. Yeah.
Not domesticated.
No, I agree. Well, Myra, anything else? Any other funny behind the scenes or reporter stories? Should we get them all?
Well, I think we got some of the highlights. I mean, feel free to ask me anything, almost.
Well, the only other thing I was wondering was there ever any crossover? Like besides like you're in a riot and looking for being asked about soccer cleats, but any crossover where I don't know, kids showed up where you were when you were on film or anything kooky like that?
Not like that, because I was in some pretty dicey situations, and they really, it would not be good for them to show up. And so I was, and you know what? I'll tell you, they really don't care. They never cared. It was like, oh, your mom's on TV. So because I was on TV since birth, since all of them were born.
Yeah.
They didn't watch, they could care less. They were not interested. And not that they should be, but no, it was like, they didn't care.
Yeah. They were not impressed.
Not impressed. No.
Yeah.
Where's my dinner? Where are my soccer cleats? So
when are you going to be home?
When are you going to be home? Ma.
Right.
That it never ends. Yeah. And now they're away and they're adults, and I'm the one going, son.
Of course. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Remember me.
Mm-hmm.
My birth and life. Please talk to me.
So that just reminds me of a story with Zach.
Your Zach or mine?
My Zach.
Okay, because I have one Zach.
Yeah, right. No, long time ago. He let's see, he came home from school and he was in a bad mood, and I was like, hey, do you want to like talk about it? And he's like, well, I don't want to go to Hebrew school. And he gave me this long just thing about why he hated Hebrew school and he didn't want to go and blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'm really sorry. Let's try to problem solve the issues you're having with Hebrew school, and then get your shoes on because we have to go to Hebrew school. And he looks at me.
No kid wants to go to Hebrew school.
Of course not. No. And he looks at me and he goes, Mom, I know that people find you helpful and you're some like great psychologist, but I didn't find that talk helpful at all.
All right.
And
All right then.
and I looked at him and I said, well, if you thought that talk was going to end with, and you don't have to go to Hebrew school, I can see why you're disappointed.
Right. So it didn't go. It didn't go the way he would hope. But,
no. Right. He didn't want to problem solve unless it was, you don't have to go.
Well, see, that's it's really good to have a mom who's a psychologist, because you get it. You probably say the right things. And I'm, someone who didn't read the book and the manual, I never knew what to say. So I come home from work and, they have problems. I'm like, no, you don't. I'll tell you problems. You know what I just saw?
Yeah, right.
Problem. Yeah. So I was really good at being invalidating, I guess. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I could do a whole episode on all the ways in which I didn't say the right thing in my own home. But
by and in large, you probably did. And I was just like, I ain't got time for this. Yeah. So I'm glad you made the dinner by watching TV on how to do it.
Yeah, right. Well, Myra, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It was so fun to talk to you and hear all of your funny stories, behind the scenes and at home and with the animals. And that was all really great.
Well, it was great doing this. And I'm proud of people who do kind of cool things.
Yeah.
And say, I'm going to do this and do it. And so it's really great that you're doing this.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun, and thank you for being my inaugural video recording.
Thanks for that at the last minute. I was like,
right.
Zoom? Yeah. I could do a phone call, but Zoom. But no, it was fun.
Yeah. I appreciate it. And thank you for getting all dressed up. You look adorable.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the first time this year, and I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you have a good rest of your day. Have a good vacation. Be safe and stay away from the spring breakers. And just stay well. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Stacey.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. I really had a lot of fun. You can find the Shit That Happens to Me podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts. Email your shit to theshit@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. And remember, don't be a crumb.